From viral social media challenges to it'll be fine college decisions, I've seen enough in the emergency department to permanently retire certain life choices. So today we're counting down more things I would never do as an emergency medicine physician, not because I'm boring, but because I've seen how the movie ends. All right, let's dive right in. Number 12, I would never mix energy drinks with alcohol. I know vodka plus energy drink feels like a college rite of passage, right? But here's the problem with it. Alcohol is a depressant. Energy drinks are stimulants. And when you mix them together, the stimulant masks how intoxicated you actually are. In other words, your brain feels alert, but your judgment is not. This is when people overdrink, black out, get into fights. Medically speaking, you're stressing your cardiovascular system. Caffeine increases heart rate and blood pressure. Alcohol causes dehydration and impairs coordination. And together, they increase the risk of arrhythmias, aka abnormal heart rhythms, especially in people with underlying conditions they may not even know they have. I've seen young, otherwise healthy patients come into the ER with palpitations, chest pain, severe dehydration, and in rare cases, dangerous rhythm disturbances. Number 11, I would never mess around with choking games or breath holding challenges. Every few years, this comes back as some kind of social media trend, and every time it ends badly. What people don't realize is that the brain is incredibly sensitive to oxygen deprivation. It doesn't have a backup tank. It relies on constant blood flow and constant oxygen delivery. So any weird challenge that requires you cutting off oxygen to your brain is not harmless. When oxygen levels drop, you lose consciousness within seconds. What's worse, if no one intervenes quickly, brain cells begin dying within minutes. In that short time frame, brain damage can be permanent. I've seen teenagers brought in unresponsive after attempts at this, and the outcomes were not great. We're talking intubation, ventilators, ICU admissions, and sometimes long-term neurological consequences. Number 10, I would never ignore a bad head injury just because I feel fine. This one is huge for sports. Whether it's skateboarding, snowboarding, football, head injuries are incredibly common, especially in young, active people who think they're invincible. Concussions don't always knock you out. You don't have to black out or forget your name for it to be serious. I've evaluated patients who were fully awake, answering questions, and even cracking jokes, and imaging later showed a significant brain bleed. In the ER, if someone has a significant head impact, especially high speed, we evaluate carefully. That often means neurologic exams and sometimes a CT scan to rule out bleeding because some of these injuries can deteriorate over time, not just days. It's better to be safe than sorry, and your brain is not a muscle you can just stretch and ice. It's an entire operating system, so please protect it. Number 9, I would never take pills that aren't prescribed to me. This one I see time and time again. First off, I'm sorry to report, but sharing prescription medication is illegal in the United States. Second, and more importantly, counterfeit pills are everywhere right now. Some look identical to the legitimate medications, but instead contain fentanyl or other dangerous substances. As someone who works close to a border town, this is something I see a lot. People thinking they are taking one pill, but instead it contains fentanyl. Fentanyl is incredibly potent. We're talking teeny tiny amounts causing respiratory depression, where your breathing slows down or stops altogether. When someone comes into the ER after taking an unknown pill, we're immediately focused on airway, breathing, and circulation. And sometimes we have to intubate and place someone on a ventilator because they just can't breathe on their own. Number 8, I would never jump off a roof into a pool. I don't care how good the angle looks. Jumping off a roof into a pool is one of those things that sounds fun right up until gravity reminds you it's undefeated in matches like these. You're not just jumping into water. You are jumping from a height with unpredictable trajectory into a space that may not be deep enough, may not be centered correctly, or might just not be cleared. In the ER, those poolside situations come in as trauma activations. We're talking cervical spine precautions, CT scans, head to pelvis, possible spinal fractures, burst of vertebrae, broken ankles. A bad landing can even mean spinal cord injury, which can equate to paralysis. And that's not dramatic exaggeration. That's physics and what keeps our hospital doors open. Number 7, I would never swim alone in the ocean at night. Living in Southern California, I live near the coast. I love the ocean, but I also respect the ocean. Rip currents are real, fatigue is real, visibility is minimal, and while sharks get all the PR and headlines, the real and greater danger is usually exhaustion and drowning. Drowning itself is silent. Oftentimes, there's no dramatic splashing or yelling. It can happen quickly and without much noise at all. When near drowning victims are lucky enough to survive and arrive in the emergency department, us healthcare workers are first concerned about hypoxia or low oxygen levels, which can affect the brain and other organs. If that's the case, some patients require oxygen therapy, monitoring, even ventilatory support. Some swim survivors can develop pneumonia from aspirated water or more serious lung complications. Number 6, I would never pop fireworks in my hand, even just for a second. Yes, we've talked fireworks before, but specifically this time around, I'm talking about the smaller ones. Your hands are incredibly complex. Bones, tendons, nerves, blood vessels, all tightly packed together. I've seen hands looking like the Stranger Things Demogorgon. When a firework explodes in your hand, it's not just a burn. It can lead to open fractures, tendon ruptures, nerve damage, even partial or full amputations. And reconstructive surgery is intricate and not perfect. In other words, function may never fully return to normal, which means grip strength, dexterity, all that can be permanently altered forever. Number 5, I would never vape something just because it's not smoke. I understand vaping feels cleaner and less harsh. Heck, it even smells better and is often marketed as safer. But your lungs were designed for one thing and one thing only, and that's air. In the hospitals I've worked at, we've seen real lung injuries linked to vaping. Something called EVALI, which stands for e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury. Patients often present with shortness of breath, chest pain, cough, and low oxygen levels. Imaging shows diffuse inflammation throughout the lungs. Think of it this way. Lung tissue doesn't care if the flavor was mango instead of tobacco. Heated chemical aerosols are still irritants to the lungs any way you present it. Number 4, I would never free climb buildings, cliffs, or towers for a video. I don't care how insane the skyline looks, no way am I climbing a skyscraper without safety gear, ever. While the videos look cinematic, what you don't see is the margin for error. 0, meaning one slip, one sweaty palm, one loose shoe, and the lights are out. From a trauma perspective, high falls are unforgiving. Once you're talking multiple stories up, survival depends on luck and physics, really. In the ER, high fall injuries come in as full trauma activations. We're talking spinal fractures, pelvic fractures, internal bleeding. Sometimes we're running massive transfusion protocols within minutes, or cracking someone's chest open and personally beating their heart with my hands to try and keep them earthside. Number 3, I would never ignore severe abdominal pain that feels different, especially for younger patients watching. Appendicitis is not something to mess around with, and it also does not care about your final schedule or your weekend plans. Severe abdominal pain radiating to your right lower quadrant, paired with fever, nausea, worsening tenderness, those are red flags, my friend. And if the appendix ruptures, fecal matter, aka poop, and infection can spread into the abdominal cavity, leading to peritonitis, which is a serious and potentially life-threatening condition. In the ER, we run labs, images like CT scans or ultrasounds, and consult surgery if needed. But the earlier it's caught, the easier the recovery. Number 2, I would never downplay mental health red flags. This one matters too. If someone tells me they feel hopeless, overwhelmed, or like they might hurt themselves, I take that very seriously. We see mental health crises in the emergency department every single day. Anxiety attacks that feel like heart attacks, severe depression. Mental health is not a weakness. It is health and part of healthcare, and ignoring it does not make it disappear. In fact, it usually leads to it festering and escalating. If you or someone you know is struggling, talk to somebody. And if someone is in immediate danger, seek emergency care. Getting help is strength, not failure. Number 1 thing I'd never do as an ER doctor, I would never jump on a giant trampoline with a bunch of adults. Yes, I get it. Trampolines seem harmless. What could possibly go wrong? Well, in a word, physics. When multiple full-grown people are jumping at the same time, the force multiplies. One person lands wrong, someone else double bounces them higher than expected, and suddenly they come down awkwardly, or maybe the entire trampoline snaps and caves in. I've seen every injury under the sun everyone from ankle fractures, tibial fractures, wrist fractures, the list goes on and on. Adults, I've noticed, especially underestimate the force. More body weight means more momentum. More momentum means more impact. If you're going to jump one person at a time, seems like a smart choice. All right, that's part 2 of things I would never do as an ER doctor. Not because I'm trying to ruin your fun, but because I've seen how these stories end. If this video made you rethink even one risky habit, that's a win. Let me know in the comments which one of these you wouldn't be caught dead doing. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and hit that like button. That way I can keep making videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and stay healthy, my friends.